Disney and Nintendo, two of the biggest names in family entertainment. One built its empire on animation, unforgettable stories, and pioneering in theme parks. The other redefined video games for the whole family with plumbers, princesses, adventures, and innovative game consoles that span generations. On the surface, they seem like they were made for each other. Both are global icons, both create experiences the whole family can enjoy together, and both are anchored by iconic company mascots that are instantly recognizable the world over. Mickey Mouse and Mario. You'd think with so much in common, these two titans would have a long history of collaboration. After all, who wouldn't want to see Disney magic and Nintendo innovation come together? But the truth is, the one major project that brought them into the same orbit turned out to be a complete disaster. It should have been a match made in heaven. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. But that's not the whole story, because while Disney and Nintendo never teamed up the way you might expect, their paths have crossed in fascinating ways through shared philosophies, technological innovation, and even competing visions of family entertainment. Hey, this is Synergy Loves Company, where we explore how Disney connects to everything so you can feel connected to Disney even when you can't be at the parks. I'm Eric, and today we're powering up like Mario grabbing a superstar, because we're diving into the connections between Disney and Nintendo. This is part 3 of our Disney and video game series, so if you missed the first 2 episodes where we looked at Disney's work with Capcom and Sierra Online, definitely go back and check those out. And of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything else coming up. Then give this video a thumbs up if you are excited to see how Disney and Nintendo's worlds have collided. And a quick shout out to friend of the show, Sean Jacks, in his fantastic book, Dreaming in Digital, The World of Disney Video Games. It's been a huge inspiration and resource for this series, and if you're a Disney fan or a gamer or both, you'll definitely want to pick it up. I've got a link in the description where you can find it. All right, let's press start. Disney and Nintendo. Nintendo's story begins in 1889, not with video games, but with cards. Founded by Fusajiro Yamauchi, Nintendo first made Hanafuda playing cards, the kind even popular with Japanese organized crime syndicate, the Yakuza. Hanafuda cards have designs with flowers and symbols, sometimes even fireballs, and you could kind of see Nintendo's influence from those cards even in their current video game symbology. By the early 1900s, Nintendo was already adapting and mass-producing Western-style cards thanks to a distribution deal with Japan Tobacco. By the 1920s, they were one of the largest card manufacturers in all of Japan. That adaptability would become a Nintendo hallmark. Under the leadership of Hiroshi Yamauchi in the 1950s, Nintendo modernized with plastic-backed cards, and in 1959, they struck a game-changing licensing deal with Disney. Suddenly, Mickey Mouse and his friends were on Nintendo products, and they sold in the hundreds of thousands. Mickey and friends were on Nintendo cards and toys, sparking a surge in sales. Mickey was popular in Japan in the 50s. For the first time ever, Nintendo's fortunes were tied to the power of Disney characters. Still, Yamauchi knew the card business had its limits. In the 1960s, Nintendo tried everything to diversify. Instant rice, taxi services, even reportedly love hotels. But most of it failed. Bankruptcy loomed over Nintendo until a young tinkerer, Gunpei Yokoi, caught Yamauchi's eye. Yokoi had built an accordion-style grabber-claw toy gadget thing in his spare time, and Yamauchi loved it. So he moved him over into research and development. The result was the Ultra Hand, which sold over 1 million units. This story, I can't help but think of Walt Disney's own eye for talent at the Disney studio. Just like when Walt elevated animators to Imagineer status, like Rolly Crump, whose whimsical whirligigs caught Walt's attention and eventually led to the Tower of the Four Winds at the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair. Yamauchi empowered Yokoi to reshape Nintendo's future. Through the 1970s, Nintendo leaned into electronics with hits like the beam gun light shooting toys and its ambitious laser clay shooting system. It was like a whole arcade thing that took over old bowling alleys. And it's hard not to think of Disneyland's own Frontierland shooting arcade, which updated to a very similar light gun technology in the early 1980s. Maybe inspired by those shooting ranges of Nintendo's. Nintendo was already blending play with emerging technology, and by 1980, Gunpei Yokoi struck gold again with the Game & Watch handhelds. These were inspired by a pocket calculator he watched someone on a train fiddling with, and he thought, what if that could be more fun than just a calculator? These slim devices paired simple video games with a functioning clock, the Game & Watch. The Game & Watch sold more than 40 million units worldwide. Here too, Disney returned to the Nintendo story. The Game & Watch released Mickey Mouse, where players help Mickey catch falling eggs before they hit the ground. Today, you can play a variation of this Mickey Mouse game called Egg on the Game & Watch simulator on the Nintendo Switch. Later, dual-screen Game & Watch titles expanded the Disney Game & Watch roster with Mickey and Donald, where the duo worked as firefighters and had to put out a fire in a burning building that featured some other Disney characters, more of Mickey's friends. Long before Kingdom Hearts or Disney Dreamlight Valley, Mickey was literally in gamers' hands for the first time ever, thanks to Nintendo. And just like Nintendo put Mickey on the Game & Watch devices, you can carry a little bit of Synergy Loves Company magic with you every day, like with this Synergy Loves Company Aloha shirt I'm wearing today. If you like what we do here and you want to support the show, you can grab your own merch or even leave a donation at shop.synergylovescompany.com. Every purchase helps us keep exploring the magic of Disney and more, and it's a fun way to show your Synergy love. Now let's get back to it. Nintendo's innovation of the Game & Watch from the pocket calculator mirrors Disney Imagineering's genius for reimagining outside technology, like turning Cold War missile guidance systems into the synchronized control for audio animatronics, or adapting flight simulators into a ride system like in Star Tours. In 1983, Nintendo launched the Famicom in Japan, followed by the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, in America, with some clever marketing, peripherals like the Zapper, and the must-have game title Super Mario Bros. Nintendo revived the US gaming industry after the 1983 crash. And then in 1989 came another Yokoi innovation, the Game Boy. It wasn't the most advanced handheld, but it was rugged, affordable, and bundled with Tetris. Now, you've heard of Disney adults. I mean, there's one right here. But the Game Boy made tons of Nintendo adults at the time. It became a worldwide phenomenon and laid the groundwork for franchises like Pokemon. From cards to toys to video games, Nintendo's first century was all about reinvention, a trait shared with Disney. Both companies built legacies on the bold use of technology to make play feel magical. But it's really the storytelling and iconic characters that both of these companies truly share. In the late 1920s, Walt Disney found himself in a crisis. His creation, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, had become a hit in theaters, but when Disney tried to negotiate for a bigger budget, distributor Charles Mintz revealed a devastating truth. Universal, not Disney, owned Oswald. Even worse, most of Walt's animators had been lured away to help keep making the Oswald shorts without Walt. Disney was left with practically nothing, no character, barely a team, and no rights to his own creation. But out of that setback came a pivot that would change entertainment forever. Walt and his right-hand animator, Ub Iwerks, quickly reworked the design of Oswald, giving the rabbit, shorter ears, a rounder face, a mischievous personality. The result was Mickey Mouse. What could have been a disaster instead became the very foundation of the Disney empire. And decades later, on the other side of the Pacific, Nintendo found itself facing a strangely similar crisis. By 1981, Nintendo desperately needed a new arcade hit. Their latest title, Radar Scope, had flopped in America, leaving thousands of unsold cabinets sitting around in warehouses. To salvage the company, a young designer named Shigeru Miyamoto was asked to create something brand new. Miyamoto's first idea was to make a game based on Popeye the Sailor Man. It was a natural fit. Familiar characters Popeye, Olive Oyl, and Bluto had a simple, recognizable love triangle dynamic, perfect for an arcade game. Players would instantly understand the stakes. But the licensing rights to Popeye proved complicated and slow. Ironically, it may have been Disney themselves that helped block Nintendo's original plan. Around the same time, Paramount and Walt Disney Pictures were busy releasing their own live-action Popeye movie, leading to a little Popeye resurgence. However it happened, licensing the sailor proved slow and complicated. Nintendo suddenly realized they couldn't move forward with the character that they wanted, so Miyamoto pivoted, sketching out new creations. Instead of Bluto, a giant ape inspired by King Kong. Instead of Olive Oyl, a damsel in distress named Pauline. And instead of Popeye, a short, mustached carpenter in red overalls, simply known as Jumpman. The game became Donkey Kong, and it was a revolution. Donkey Kong introduced something groundbreaking, a character that could jump from platform to platform, kicking off the entire platformer genre. The red cap and mustache weren't stylistic flourishes, but practical solutions to arcade hardware limitations. It's a lot easier to render than, like hair in a mouth, put a mustache there and a hat on, and it's easier shapes. And when Nintendo of America localized the game, Jumpman got a new name, Mario, after Mario Segale, the landlord of Nintendo's Seattle warehouse. Suddenly, Nintendo's accidental hero had an identity. Just like Mickey rose from the ashes of Oswald, Mario was born from the failure to license Popeye, two icons created not by careful planning, but by necessity and constraint. Mario's popularity exploded. Sequels like Donkey Kong Jr. and Mario Brothers introduced gameplay and, of course, his brother Luigi, a color palette swap sibling whose name also nodded to the Japanese word ruigi, meaning similar. Then came the leap to the Nintendo Entertainment System and Famicom. In 1985, bundled with the NES in America, Super Mario Bros. Became the game that not only defined a console, but rescued the entire American video game industry after its crash. Like Mickey Mouse, Mario wasn't just a character in a hit. He was a symbol of a new era. Super Mario Bros. Shifted games away from simple high scores towards story and world building and theme. The intuitive design of World 1, Level 1 taught players everything they needed to know without words, while Koji Kondo's music and sound design made every coin, jump, and pipe unforgettable. By the late 1980s, Mario was everywhere. Lunchboxes, pajamas, cartoons, even breakfast cereals. He wasn't just Nintendo's mascot, he was its identity. Just as Mickey Mouse stands as the smiling face of Disney, Mario became the joyful ambassador of video games worldwide. Both Mickey and Mario proved something powerful. When companies lose control of one character, the next one just might define their legacy. And while Mickey became the emblem of Disney magic, Mario became the emblem of Nintendo's playfulness. Two characters born decades and continents apart, yet united by the same story. A lost opportunity transformed into an icon. Mickey first became that household name on the movie screen and then made the jump into video games without missing a beat. After Nintendo's Game & Watch introduced him to handheld gaming, soon Atari, Sierra Online, Capcom, and Sega all had successful Mickey Mouse video game titles on shelves by the end of the 1980s. And there have been so many great Mickey Mouse games over the years. Leave a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. But in the 1990s, Nintendo tried the opposite experiment. If Disney's star could go from film to games, could Nintendo's star make the jump from games into film? It was Mario's turn to test whether the path Mickey had paved could run both ways. In 1993, Hollywood attempted something bold. The very first feature-length video game adaptation. And that movie was, of course, Super Mario Bros. But instead of becoming the blockbuster launch of a new franchise, it became infamous. Remembered less for its story and more for its chaos. And in the mix with that chaos was Disney. It began when producer Roland Joff traveled to Japan and convinced Nintendo to license him the rights to Mario. The deal was actually pretty modest by Hollywood standards, just $2 million, and Nintendo cleverly kept all the merchandising rights. The filmmakers behind the project would be Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel, known for creating a character pretty iconic in the 80s, Max Headroom. They didn't see Mario as a cartoony adventure. Instead, they envisioned something darker, stranger, almost like a prequel origin story to the games. A story about brotherhood set in a dystopian parallel dimension ruled by dinosaurs. And then Disney stepped in. After all, they had practically invented the video game movie with 1982's Tron. Because by this time, Leitmotiv, the small studio that was producing the film, had already run out of money. They needed another production company and a distributor, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, through Disney's subsidiaries Hollywood Pictures and Buena Vista Distribution, was the only Hollywood executive who was willing to take a gamble on this movie. Katzenberg personally visited the set in June of 1992 to evaluate the project, and his decision to pick up the film would definitely have an impact on its creative direction. Disney's involvement was a part of a broader strategy tied to Hollywood Pictures, a label that they created in the late 1980s, much like Touchstone Pictures, that would take on edgier or more experimental projects that didn't quite fit the classic Disney brand, like 1990's Arachnophobia and 1993's Tombstone. The Hollywood label provided an outlet for younger, up-and-coming producers to create experimental and moderately budgeted movies, so the Super Mario Bros. Movie project seemed perfect in that sense. And it was also a beloved, globally recognized brand with massive merchandising potential. And in 1993, the video game angle was definitely an experiment. For Katzenberg and Disney, the focus was clear. The film had to appeal to children. This mandate directly clashed with Morton and Jankel's original darker, hyper-realistic vision, which had drawn inspiration from Blade Runner and RoboCop and Batman. And to satisfy Disney's stipulations, the producer brought in writer Ed Solomon to rewrite the script, make it appeal to kids and families, and add in a whole bunch of gags. Disney's influence on the story marked another major turning point in the chaos and created more deep tension between the studio, the directors, the cast, everyone involved. Disney's interest in the movie, though, wasn't just about the movie itself. It was more about the ancillary revenue that could be made from a project like this. Katzenberg reportedly viewed the Mario Brothers as two computers what Mickey Mouse was to animation. See, you even saw it back then. Seeing the potential for merchandising, tie-ins, and even maybe theme park attractions, at the time Disney was experiencing enormous success with films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which had inspired whole lands in Disney parks like Mickey's Toontown in Disneyland. Super Mario Bros. Was seen as a similar opportunity, a chance to transform a video game property into a broader, synergistic entertainment ecosystem. But let's get back to the film itself. Filmed in an abandoned cement factory in North Carolina, conditions were miserable, hot, unsafe, and far removed from the whimsical mushroom kingdom that fans expected. The cast, which included John Leguizamo as Luigi, Dennis Hopper as the villainous King Koopa, and Bob Hoskins as Mario. Yep, the same Bob Hoskins who had just starred a few years earlier in Disney's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. All of the cast quickly grew disillusioned. Scripts were rewritten daily. Scenes were improvised on the fly. The frustration boiled over. Dennis Hopper reportedly screamed through the takes. Hoskins and Leguizamo began drinking between the shots, and accidents were common. Hoskins even broke his hand in a stunt gone wrong. Directors Morton and Jankel clashed with the producers and were eventually locked out of reshoots and editing. When Super Mario Bros. Hit theaters in May of 1993, just 2 weeks before the release of Jurassic Park, I know, it never stood a chance. On a budget of around $45 million, it grossed less than $39 million worldwide. Critics called it incoherent, ugly, and joyless. A disaster for both Disney and Nintendo. In the years since, though, the film has found a small cult following, with fans admiring its bizarre production design and practical effects. But in its own time, the movie was seen as a failure. For Disney, it was a missed opportunity to turn Mario into something bigger within their company. And for Nintendo, it was a lesson learned the hard way. Their characters maybe weren't safe in Hollywood's hands. After the chaotic experience of the 1993 live-action Super Mario Bros. Film, both companies largely returned to their core expertise. Nintendo refocused on gaming, continuing to innovate with each new console generation, and by the mid-2000s, the company was exploring how to make gaming more accessible, social, and family-friendly, ultimately creating waves with the Nintendo Wii, a console designed for bringing players of all ages together, much like the goal of Disney's parks to bring families together and play. Meanwhile, Disney mostly stepped back from video game films, instead concentrating on their strengths and, of course, their animated features, their theme parks, and interactive experiences. But The two companies' worlds briefly intersected again in 2008 when Disney developed and field-tested an interactive in-park map system for the Nintendo DS. It was kind of a clever precursor to what would eventually become the My Disney Experience app. Guests could navigate the park with their Nintendo DS, blending Nintendo technology with Disney storytelling and park logistics. Nintendo characters would also go on to make a big cameo in Disney's Wreck-It Ralph in 2012. Bowser, Goombas, and other familiar figures and symbols appeared in the arcade world, creating a nostalgic nod for longtime gamers while introducing younger audiences to Nintendo's iconic characters. Wreck-It Ralph became a critical and commercial success, grossing over $470 million worldwide, and demonstrated the enduring appeal of Nintendo's characters in storytelling beyond the games. And it showed us a glimpse of what a successful Disney-Nintendo cinematic collaboration could look like. However, Nintendo ultimately chose Disney's main competition, Universal, as its partner for theme park attractions and movies, turning the Mushroom Kingdom into tangible experiences for fans. Super Nintendo World locations now exist in Universal Studios Japan, Universal Studios Hollywood, and Epic Universe in Orlando, each bringing Nintendo games to life with cutting-edge rides and interactive play areas. Guests can race through Mario Kart Koopa's Challenge, collect coins with interactive power-up bands, and explore richly detailed environments straight from their favorite video gaming world. On the cinematic side, Universal's Illumination released the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 2023, and it leaned into that family-friendly storytelling, celebrating the character's history while engaging brand new fans as well as the ones who grew up with the games. The film combined vibrant animation, humor, and heartfelt narratives. It achieved strong box office results, proving that Nintendo's worlds thrive outside consoles when handled with care. In the end, both companies return to what they do best. Nintendo continues to innovate gaming experiences that captivate families and gamers worldwide, and Disney continues to weave stories across movies, theme parks, and merchandise. The story of Disney and Nintendo is a fascinating tale of two entertainment giants, sometimes aligned, sometimes divergent, but always shaping the experiences of generations of fans. If you're just joining us, this episode is part 3 of a series exploring Disney's collaboration with major video game companies over the years. Make sure to check out the earlier episodes on Sierra Online and Capcom to see how Disney's games shaped the industry and connected to their broader strategy. Don't forget to check out Sean Jex's Dreaming in Digital for the full story on these Disney games mentioned here and so many more. And remember, the most magical Disney experiences happen all around you. You just need to know where to look. Until next time, keep discovering the magic in everything.